8-step final expense phone script. Throughout this phone script, you'll find italicized and bold words. The italicized words are notes and the bold words are parts of the script. Alternatively, you'll see some additional rapport-building questions indented and bold italicized. For flow in the training, we are leaving out responses where possible and will address objections/rebuttals at the end of the phone script training. Step 1. Introduction. Hi, client name. This is Grace from Senior Benefits reaching out about an inquiry you made over the phone about our final expense/burial insurance program. Step 2. Rapport building. First and foremost, I'm a licensed insurance agent in your state. What I do is help people 50 and older get affordable final expense coverage to pay their burial and/or cremation costs. But before we get into any of that, please tell me, how are you have been doing with all that's gone on with COVID? Is everything okay? Do you have kids or family that live close by? Are they able to help out if you need it? I know we just met, but please let me know if I can help in any way possible. There are lots of programs to help people in need. So, how long have you lived in city? Are you retired, and if so, what did you retire from? Beyond that, what do you like to do for fun, or do you have any hobbies? So now you've told me a little about yourself, let me tell you about who I am and what I do. As I said earlier, my name is Grace. I am an independent, licensed life insurance agent in your state, and my license number is ABC 123. I've been in the business since 2010 and specialize in helping people like you get an affordable final expense program to cover burial and cremation costs. The reason my clients do business with me is that I'm what's known as a broker. Do you know what that is? I am not tied to one company, like American General or State Farm. Instead, I have access to all companies. I shop all the companies to get you not only the best price but the best value of coverage. I get my clients the best bang for their buck. Step 3. The market. Like I said earlier, the reason people request information over the phone is that they are concerned about the high costs of final expenses, and want a program to take care of it, so their kids don't come out of pocket for it or worse, have to create a GoFundMe account to handle these expenses. So tell me, what were your thoughts and concerns or questions when you requested this information? Have you had experiences dealing with funerals in your family? So how did the family handle your family member's burial without him having insurance? Tell me how it made you feel when you found out your family member wasn't insured and that you and your family were burdened with the burial cost? Who do you have your existing life insurance coverage with? Great. And what's the name of the company? How much coverage? How much a month? Is it whole or term life? Do you know if it cancels at 80? Why don't you grab the policy for me so I compare what you have to what I do? So, the next question I have deals with your final wishes. Do you know if you want to be buried or cremated? Are you aware of how much the average funeral costs? I'd like to share some recent prices on the high cost of burial. First, the average cost of final expenses has increased 2.5 times higher than it was just 20 or so years ago. Everything has gone up in price, as you know. The bottom line is a $5,000 burial in 1990 runs about $12,500 today, and that price will just continue to increase over time. That's crazy, isn't it? Imagine what those costs will be in the next 5 to 10 years. Same with cremation. A cremation that costs $5,000 today, which is about average, will likely more than double in price to about $9,000 over the next number of years. That's why it's very important to prepare and make sure you have enough coverage. Now, beyond covering the cost of a burial, can you think of some additional coverage you'd need to cover other things such as medical bills or other things? So, let me ask you, do you know the difference between term and whole life insurance? No? That's okay, most people don't. So let's explain the difference so you will know which program is best suited for you. You know who AARP is, right? Among the many products they offer a life insurance program that's called a level term product. Now, the simple way to remember how term works is that all term insurance terminates. This means it cancels at some point. AARP and Globe are designed to cancel your coverage at age 80. You could be in perfect health or almost deceased, doesn't matter. They will cancel your coverage completely at 80 and no, you do not get your money back. But it gets worse. Both AARP and Globe increase your premiums over time. They start you off cheap but raise the price on you when you're retired and your budget is fixed. Unfortunately, many can no longer afford the premium as time goes on and the insurance companies never end up paying a benefit. The plans are traditionally very profitable for insurance companies but not beneficial for their clients. It's not good for you at this time of life. Picture this, a client a few years back who had this program with AARP was 76 years old and had her AARP plan for 15 years. When she turned 76, her premiums jumped from $50 a month to $140 a month. Can you believe that? Imagine if you were in her position and making a low fixed income. She had to choose between paying her premium or paying her utility bills and medications. Who'd want a plan like that, right? The bottom line is, nobody knows how long they'll be here, but most would like to be here as long as they can be, and when it's time to go you want to make sure your affairs are in order and not leave the burden on your loved ones, right? So that's how term insurance works. Moving on, you've heard about Colonial Penn, right? Alex from Jeopardy used to advertise those plans all the time. Well, they do what's called guaranteed acceptance coverage. All it means is that they do not ask you health questions when you apply for coverage. All you do is sign your name to the bottom, send it in, and you're guaranteed approval for coverage. Well, here's the truth about that plan. Let me read the fine print at the bottom of the form Colonial Penn sends out. The highlighted fine print says at the bottom, I understand there is a reduced death benefit for 2 years if death occurs by non-accidental death. What that means is you have no natural death coverage for the first 2 years. So if you think about this program, it's the reverse of term. Now you have to pray you'll live long enough to be fully covered. These types of plans are meant for those who can't qualify for traditional final expense, whole life plans. Let me tell you a story about a client whose father purchased a Colonial Penn program and told his son he was covered. Lo and behold, not 12 months later, he suffered a massive stroke and died. His son took his policy down to the funeral home, feeling it would take care of final expenses, but it didn't. The funeral director said his policy was no good and would only pay a few $100s out. Picture being in the son's position. Can you imagine the stress of realizing you don't have enough money to bury your father? Turns out he had to borrow money just to put his father away properly. That's sad, isn't it? Bottom line, had he found a plan through me that asks the sorts of questions I do, he would have been fully protected and had enough money to pay for his funeral. Steps 4 and 5 are approach and presenting the plans. So, I assume you get all sorts of junk mail. You've seen countless commercials on TV, and so on about final expenses and burial insurance, right? So, not all insurance is the same, as you've learned. Some programs are better than others, and I think you should know all the facts before deciding on the program that's right for you. This leads me to tell you what I do. I offer what's called final expense whole life insurance. Here are the 3 main benefits. First, you're covered 100% from the first day with no 2-year waiting period. Second, your coverage never cancels due to age or health conditions. Simply pay the premium and you'll always be covered, no matter if you pass at 75 or 115. And third, your price is guaranteed to never increase. You will always pay the same premium each month without ever having to go through a price increase. Also, you choose the beneficiary of your choice, and the death benefit is tax-free to them. Quick story, a client who purchased coverage at 75 years old recently remarried and was healthy as a horse. 6 months later, tragedy struck and he died from a massive heart attack. Because he purchased this coverage, he was fully covered and his family was fully protected. knowing his funeral expenses were covered. Bottom line, this final expense program will pay the benefits we define and the price will never go up and will last for the rest of your life. So, client name, I have to ask you this, out of all three programs we talked about. The term that cancels and has rate increases. The Colonial Penn type policies that make you wait 2 years. Or mine that has immediate 100% coverage with fixed rates guaranteed never to increase. Which program fits your needs best and what do you like the best about my program versus the others? It's pretty much a no-brainer, right? Everybody I help says the same thing. The bottom line is that it's all about the guarantees, right? So, give me just a minute to see which program is going to give you the most competitive rate. Step 6. Pricing and closing. So, client name, let me make sure I understand everything. What you're looking for is enough coverage to pay for a burial, because you don't want to burden your relatives like your brother did, correct? And you're not looking for too much coverage, because you don't want to make your kids rich, and you want to make sure you have a fairly priced program, too, is that right? Most of our plans start at $20,000, but we can look at a couple for you unless you have a specific amount in mind. Okay, client name, now that I know what your coverage needs are, let me go ahead and verify some basic health information. Nothing too specific, but enough to make sure we're looking for the best program for you. What is your birth date? Do you use tobacco in any form in the past 12 months? What kind? Do you have any lung problems, kidney problems, or liver problems? So no COPD, emphysema, oxygen tank usage, hepatitis, or dialysis. Any diabetes? Pills or insulin? Diabetic complications? Have you had any history of heart problems? Any heart attacks, strokes, seizures, bypasses, stents, pacemakers? Take nitroglycerin? Have you been hospitalized in the past 12 months overnight for any reason? Any cancer, ever? Any depression, bipolar, dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, or any other neurological disorder? And what's your height and weight? What medications are you on, and would you mind spelling them out for me so I can find the best program for you? Thank you. My final question is about the price. 9 out of 10 people I talk to draw disabilities or are retired. Everyone I talk with is on a fixed income. They all want life insurance, but they want to make sure they can afford it, too. Because what's the point of having a policy that's too much and has to drop in 6 months? The right plan is there when you pass, and it's also the one you can comfortably afford. If I can qualify you for a program today, can you afford somewhere between $150 and $200 a month? Too much? Hey, that's no problem. Let me ask you this then, if I can qualify you for another program, could you afford $100 to $125 a month? Alternate presentation when the client only qualifies for guaranteed issue. So, based on some of your answers, we're eliminating some carriers, but the good news is that you can qualify for coverage. Bottom line, because of your health conditions, most companies will not take you. However, I have access to what's called guaranteed issue companies that will take anyone in any condition as long as we complete the application form and you pay your premiums. As I've explained, guaranteed issue final expense never cancels and never increases in price. However, you only have accidental death coverage for the first 2 years. If you die of any natural causes during the first 2 years, only what you paid plus 10% interest is paid to your beneficiary. The good news is that you don't lose your money if you die early. And what you get back is better than putting it into the bank. And here's the thing. Once 2 years have passed, you have full accidental and natural death coverage that the company can never take away from you. Bottom line, client name, I have found that there are 2 types of people regarding this type of program. The first type doesn't like it and would rather take his chances. Or the second type wishes they could get fully covered, but understand that 2 years fly by quickly, and in the long run, this plan is worth it. My question for you is, what group do you fit into? Closing and handling objections. Okay, The next step is I ask you some basic questions and get this protection started for you. Would that be okay? One of the great things about this type of program is that it takes just a couple of minutes to complete the application, and we don't need things like a medical exam, or blood or urine tests. We handle everything right over the phone. Super simple. Step 7: Paperwork. Make sure you're ready with your e-app loaded. You will also need to instruct your client about verification so you can get the policies issued while you're on the phone. Step 8: Post-closing. Okay, so to wrap up, we've taken out a policy for $20,000 in coverage that's effective today. The rate is $150 a month, and that rate never increases, and you can't be canceled due to age or health. Please make sure to write my phone number down in case you have any questions. Thank you for hiring me as your agent going forward. Now, just talk about anything other than insurance for 3 to 5 minutes. Then, hang the phone up and get to the next call. Objections and rebuttals. I need to think about it. That's fine. Client name. I can understand why you feel that way. But when you say I need to think about it, how do you mean? Okay, besides needing to decide which policy is right for you, is there any other issue that needs to be addressed before we make sure you're protected and covered? Great, so here's my proposition. If you're unsure as to which plan you want, go with the least expensive option. Let's start there because something is better than nothing, don't you agree? Plus, we can always add more coverage later. So who do you want your beneficiary to be? If they need to talk to kids. Great, so here's my proposition. Client name. I think we both agree that your children would prefer you have coverage over not, right? How would you feel if your children had to pull $10,000 out of nowhere to pay for your funeral expenses, or worse, need to ask others for help or set up a GoFundMe account? Further, would you expect your grandkids to pay for your kids' funeral? Of course not. So let's get you qualified with this plan, and you can show your kids your plan after the fact, and I can help with any questions that arise then. So who do you want your beneficiary to be? Overcoming initial stalling. Sometimes you'll get clients who do not answer questions thoughtfully. After asking, "What were your thoughts and concerns when you requested information?" you may hear objections like this. "I was just curious. Just wanted to see what it was about." Or any non-answer that isn't detailed and specific. You need to ask the 3 reasons script below to extract more information from the prospect. Here's the script. Client name. When I call people who request information, typically they are in one of 3 situations. The first is that they know that if they die today, there is no coverage in place, and a loved one will end up paying the bill, and they don't want that. The second situation is they have some coverage, but not enough, due to increasing costs to bury people, or maybe they're paying too much for existing coverage. The third situation is that they have plenty but want to leave extra behind for a loved one. My question to you, client name, is, which of these situations best fits your scenario? 1. Not having any and wanting coverage. 2. Having some and wanting more or a lower price, or 3. Wanting to leave extra behind. If they answer reason 1, I see. So what you're saying is, God forbid, if you die, there's nothing, no savings, no policies, and nothing at all to pay for final expenses, right? If they answer reason 2, I see, it's good to see you've taken some coverage out. Most people I talk with have nothing. So, tell me, what is the reason you'd like to have more coverage than you have now? So to tell you exactly what I can do, how much coverage do you have and with which company do you have it? Mutual of Omaha? They're a good company, so, and how long have you had them? 2 years, okay, and what are you paying for them? Have you had a price increase ever? Or do you know if it's term or whole? Okay, so you have $5,000 right now, so tell me, how much more coverage would you need to feel comfortable and have peace of mind than you already have? If they answer reason 3, great. It's nice to see someone that has coverage. Most don't nowadays. So what would be your reason to have any more than what you have? Why is it important? Who do you have your coverage with now / how much / how long have you had it?